evidence that Gates engaged in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl, possibly violating Florida state law. The report also accuses Gates of regularly paying for sex from at least 2017 to 2020 and using illegal drugs on multiple occasions. Earlier today, Gates had attempted to block the report's release by suing the Ethics Committee. He has denied any wrongdoing. The Ethics Committee had secretly voted as well to publicly release the report earlier this month. After initially voting against its release, Gates resigned from Congress on November 13th after President-elect Donald Trump tapped him to be the next Attorney General. But you'll remember he withdrew from consideration for the post a week later. Joining me now, NBC News correspondent Julia Ainsley in Washington. Julia, there is a lot to digest in this report. What more does it have?
Well, these investigators followed the money, Kate, and they found that between 2017 and 2020, Gates paid more than $90,000 to 12 different women, and they concluded those payments were likely tied to sexual activity or drug use. And then perhaps the biggest bombshell here is that he did engage in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl, they say. He regularly paid women for sex, and his use and possession of illegal drugs. They even accuse him of using his house account and trying to come up with a fake pseudonym in order to get drugs while he was a congressman, and accepting gifts that go over the permissible amounts under those ethics guidelines. There's a lot to unpack here. It's a long report, but in short, these are a lot of details we've been hearing about for years. Now they're all in one place in writing from a government entity, and Gates was not successful in blocking them from coming out, despite years of back and forth and a last-minute request for a temporary restraining order from a court.
Yeah, and Julia, have we heard any response from Gates himself? And could he now face any new legal trouble because of all these details in this report?
Well, on the legal trouble, Kate, we will say the DOJ did decline to bring prosecution. We've heard from senior DOJ officials today who say, yes, look, the House Ethics Committee is a lower bar, that they didn't believe that they would be successful in a prosecution, and that it was career prosecutors, no one politically appointed, who made the decision not to bring the case. As for Gates himself, we did hear from him today saying that the House Ethics Committee brought this on Christmas Eve, not allowing him to respond to it in court.
Julia Ainsley for us. Julia, thank you so much. The holiday week officially is here. It is off to a bitter cold start for millions in the eastern half of the country. Snow and freezing temperatures already caused issues at the airports and on the roads in the Midwest and the Northeast over the weekend. Since Friday, more than 26,000 flights have either been delayed or canceled. It wasn't any better over the weekend on the rails. A lot of people got stuck waiting for their Amtrak trains on Sunday after down power lines caused delays all the way from New York down to Washington, D.C. Meteorologist Bill Cairns is tracking the winter weather for us. We'll get to him in a sec, but let's start with NBC News correspondent Adrian Broadus at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. I have to say, it doesn't look as crowded as I would have thought on the day before Christmas Eve. Adrian, what are travelers telling you today? What do people need to know if they're heading out this week?
Kate, they're saying the same thing. Many of the travelers who have talked to us this morning and throughout the afternoon said, hey, I thought it would be busier. One woman showed up 3 hours before her flight was scheduled to depart, and a woman traveling with 2 kids just told me, hey, I'd rather be early than rushing and running through the airport. What travelers need to know? You still should get to the airport early because we could see delays based on that weather that Bill is going to tell us about a little bit later. But also keep in mind, you will not be alone. TSA says more people are traveling this holiday compared to last year. They're estimating nearly 40 million people will pass through those security checkpoints through January 2nd. Some travelers who spoke with us say they are more worried about their return trip home. Take a listen.
Well, we did arrive 3 hours early, so not that concerned about time, but I mean, definitely the bag, we were 10 pounds overweight, so we had to figure that out.
Living in Chicago, it's just like, it's going to be a mess, so I'm hoping that everybody that's here can make it home safe, you know, because I've been stuck on the holidays literally a couple years ago, so I hope everybody can make it home safe, I'll say that.
That is the hope. Everyone wants to make it home safely. TSA has added an additional 600 security agents to help handle this holiday surge, Kate.
All right, Adrian, thank you. Bill, I'm one of those people, I usually get there at the last minute at the airport, but I've been telling my kids to get there early. There is snow, there is cold. What do we have on the West Coast as well?
Yeah, the West Coast, unfortunately, is going to see the worst weather probably anywhere in the country if we want to take the next 3 or 4 days combined. We got a couple big storms. We have one that's going to be moving along the coast, bringing some rain in as we go throughout this evening, and then you could already see another one back just coming onto the screen. So going to kind of have one after another. These are going to be atmospheric river events. They're not going to be high-level events, but they are going to have a good deal of rainfall with them. So as we go throughout the day tomorrow, we watch this cold front moving onshore. The rain comes in tonight, and then by tomorrow afternoon, it starts to move into the interior portions of the west. So then we're kind of dry out through Christmas morning, but then Christmas evening, that's when we watch the rain coming in, especially in the Pacific Northwest here. That's where high elevation snow. Anyone traveling Interstate 5, definitely going to be some wet weather late in the day on Christmas. As far as rainfall totals, not enough for like significant flooding. If there's any chance of isolated flooding, it'd be some of the mountainous areas here in Northern California or through the southern portions of the Cascades. Snowfall totals will be pretty high, but you know, it's a big country. There's going to be bad weather somewhere. And unfortunately, the Pacific Northwest looks like the spot.
Yeah, it does look wet, although some of those totals are ski resorts, so that's